It's everywhere.
All right, we are live. Welcome back to the Collector's Pack, episode 11. How's everyone going tonight?
Welcome.
Excellent.
Welcome.
Very good. How's everything,
Awesome.
Mr. Ryan?
Yeah, doing very well. Been on holidays with the family down in Bustleton, and I've just been setting up the collector room, the lighting and toy goodness, as you can see. So it's been very exciting.
Oh, that's
Very
awesome.
good. We've been seeing some pictures.
Yeah,
Yes,
the collection
been
room's
trying to
looking
do
great,
photos.
mate. The backdrop's
Yeah.
looking awesome.
Thank you very much. It's really coming along very nicely.
It is. Now you just got to put toys in there and do a room tour. You'll be right.
That's it. All
I
right.
think you can fit another Deltoff in that gap there. You got a bit of a gap behind you. The second Deltoff in there just looks
Yeah, I
nice.
can probably squeeze one in there.
You can squeeze one in,
That's
Ryan. Go.
Hey, Simon.
We've got Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah, g'day, Zazel.
There's Hazel.
There's Hazel. Awesome. And how about you guys? You recently went to Melbourne last weekend or weekend before. What was that like?
Oh, we did indeed. That was awesome.
Hazel.
I mean,
Did you?
I'll start off. Yeah, we had a great weekend. We packed it was gone in a flash, wasn't it, boys? Which is, I guess, is the sign of a good weekend. But we raced around. We checked out a whole bunch of different places. We got to the major, the big toy stores, Lobos and Aaron's and a bunch of other places. We went to the toy fair. We saw Simon, who's in the chat at the toy fair, which was awesome. And we just had a great weekend, picked up a bunch of stuff and just had a good time together. And by the time it was time to come home on Sunday night, we felt like we were just getting in the groove of things. We could have definitely done with a couple more days, but that's always the way, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. It's great to hang out with you. Just checking out the Lobos was just that's
next
blew my
level,
mind,
right?
Lobos.
Yeah.
Just smile from ear to ear. Hunting for toys and I just must be slow because I was maybe down my second aisle, and Scott and Andrew were like, "Come and have a look at this." So I'd get dragged off, and then where was I? And I was just like, I had no plan of attack. I'm just like here, there, everywhere, but it's fun.
It was
awesome.
That's right.
There was just too
Hey,
much
Shane.
to see.
Hey, Shane.
It was. Hey, Shane.
Being there for 3 hours, it was like you get a headache. It was like just an overload of colours and toys and
Yeah.
you really need
Quite a lot, isn't it? A lot to take in.
It was too stimulating in there.
Yeah.
Easily spend a day there, couldn't you?
That's it.
Oh, without a doubt.
And there's KFC across the road, so you got nourishment. So you'd be right.
That's right.
Grab some lunch and come back.
Yeah, they got cold
Second
drinks there
round.
and they got some snacks. So, I mean, there's enough in store to keep you going for the best part of half a day at least.
That's right.
100%.
Now I know why, Ryan, your video was so quick because there's so much to see. I said,
Yeah, that was really cut down from what I had, but there was so much footage, and I just had to really stream it back because there's too much,
Yeah, because I timed it, and even to go on sort of quickly, it took over a minute a cabinet.
Yep.
Just going, panning across and down and panning across down. But
That's correct.
yeah,
There's so much there too.
It's really not possible to show all of that store in a video. It would be like a feature length, like a feature film,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. And not all of it's either it's not all relevant for us either. So
yeah.
It gets a bit hard. You could, as you said, Scott, you could do an hour and a half long video with everything, or
Sure.
I guess you just have that highlights. So
Yeah.
Thank you for watching, Shane. Pausing your War of the Worlds.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, Shane. Thanks for that, mate.
is that Tom Cruise version? Or you mean like the War of the Worlds, the Jeff Wayne? Because it says
I don't know
listening.
which version is it, Shane?
Yeah, is it like Jeff Wayne listening to Jeff Wayne, or you're watching Tom Cruise, or the George Powell 53 version? So many to pick from. Can I show you one thing that I picked up?
Yeah. Let's go around the grounds and let's see what you. Wow.
I finally got Pegasus from Clash of the Titans.
That's awesome.
I thought that was the TriStar logo.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I could do that actually. You could probably do something like that.
That's real 90s, isn't it? The TriStar logo.
Yeah. But so there you go. Clash of the Titan Pegasus. Really happy. It was actually had a Perseus on it. I went, I don't need Perseus. Can you just rejiggy the price? I just want that. So they did.
Yeah.
And it's made it home safely, unlike the Dino Riders. I'm big.
So you can see it.
Bit disconcerting. Look at my big head, but the Dino Rider didn't make it home, but my Pegasus did, which I'm really happy about. So he's got nice rubbery rings, and that is the last figure I need for my. It wasn't a very big line, but that's the last figure I need for my Clash of the Titans line.
Oh, that's great. That's excellent.
That's awesome.
What about you, Scott? What did you pick up?
Oh man, I picked up quite a bit. It's funny, I didn't what I was most in search of, I didn't find. I really wanted to get some more turtles, and I really wanted to get some Toxic Crusaders, and Lobos didn't have any Toxic Crusaders, which was pretty bizarre. They'd sold out, and likewise with Aaron's. But I came home with just some awesome I came home with some stuff from the key lines that I collect, but my favorite items that I came home with are the random stuff that I never would have expected to find. And example is I got a box, a complete in box Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, Kentrosaurus.
Ooh.
I'm just going to bring you up so I can see that.
Complete in box. And perfect for me because it's in the box, but the box is a bit knocked around. It's a bit faded, as you can see, and it's well and truly open. But it's complete in the box, so I can get it out and display it loose and complete. Comes with the insert and everything. So I'm stoked with this. So this was probably my highlight of the first day in Melbourne.
Yeah, that's.
So awesome. I've been picking up a few of these Cadillacs and Dinosaurs now. So I've got a sweet little collection happening. And this is the kind of. I guess the flagship item of the collection so far, one of the bigger dinos. So I was stoked with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, I was talking to Dennis, and Dennis said that the day before, Scott, this guy had called from Western Australia, and he bought up all the Toxic Crusaders and the Ninja Turtles.
Well, no, there were plenty of turtles there, but you mean just a bunch of them?
Yeah, I think he's pulling your leg, mate.
Oh, fair enough. No, but Matt, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Someone had come in a couple days prior and bought all the Toxic Crusaders. So I thought you were being serious. That's what the boys told me.
I was just saying it was Ryan. Hello, I'd like some Toxic Crusaders, please. Send them to Western Australia.
Yeah. So that was a bit of a shame. Yeah, because they had a Toxic Crusaders collector through there, scooping them all up. I think maybe they said the week prior or something like that. So
yeah.
But
it was right.
But anyway, that's all right. It helps that I collect 150 different vintage lines. So
so you can
that's right.
Pick and choose. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I'm not finding anything, I'll just start another line.
That's it. Absolutely.
Well, we can always help you find a new line anyway, Scott.
Oh, you blokes here especially.
All right.
What did you get, Andrew?
I picked up the. I always wanted this, and that's the Land of the Jawas playset.
Wow.
So it's as you can see, you've got the box. So it is complete. I will have to get another cabinet and redo my Star Wars cabinet there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wanted one of these things, and they're hard to get now. So
is that still sealed in the box, or has it been opened?
Oh no, it's open.
Yeah,
it's open. So I'll be getting it out to display.
Hey Andrew, can you leave that on your lap all night?
Yeah, just like that.
No, a bit further down.
Oh my goodness.
I'm on fire. Sorry, guys.
No, that's
must be the lemon lime bitters.
You're on a roll, mate. Yeah. Well, I'll go. I recently picked up original Thunderbirds Matchbox Rescue Pack.
Oh, sweet.
Pretty cool. So this is something I got back in the 90s. So we got all the original
Is that the one that would fit Tracy Island or those ones?
Yep, that's correct. So if you
Cool.
flip it on the back here, you can see you've got Tracy Island and all other vehicles, which will go with that.
Yeah, good
1993 Matchbox. Yeah. So very happy with that.
Now you just got to get Tracy Island, Ryan.
That's right. We get back. Got to collect them all, right? Yeah.
That's it.
That's right. I'm saving this for Brent.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'll open that up and eat the chewing gum. I'm sure he'll be so impressed. No, I don't think I'll make myself sick. I'm sure if I try and eat the gum.
Yeah.
Oh, now that you said it, Matt, you got to do it. You got to taste it.
You got to do it, mate.
Oh, okay.
Wait. Yeah.
What a bloody idiot I am.
No. All right. So we do have.
That'll open up Sergeant Slaughter. One of the two. Like I thought, Sarge might get an honourable mention. Bring him out, let him breathe. That was like day one. I was so super stoked with that. That was
yeah, that's a great pickup.
Bloody Sarge, man, that was awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you had an awesome trip to Melbourne, and
it was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, Spion I couldn't make it, but there's always next time. So.
Oh, there'll be a next time for sure.
Well, you know, Ryan, you just got like priorities. Like I've seen you had a really good time, you know, with your family. So.
Oh yeah.
That's more important. Like.
Yeah, absolutely.
With your kids when you're younger. So I'm having a
make the most of it.
moment,
yeah.
But they're the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cheers. Appreciate that. All right. So we actually have a special guest tonight. His name is Brent, and I met Brent through Collector Zone, the toy fair, and just a really awesome guy. Lots of knowledge in the vintage toys and Topps cards, and recently he's been doing the Nexus toy fair. Which has been awesome too, being able to sort of chat to him all the time. So yeah, we're gonna get him on and have a chat. Yeah, we'll get him on now. Welcome, Brent.
Hey,
how
Ryan.
You going?
Hey, good, thanks. Hey, Matt. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Brent.
Hey, Andrew.
Hey,
Welcome
Brent. How are you, mate?
Going well?
I'm doing well. Yes, Western Australia, like Ryan would know, has been a up and down roller coaster of weather lately. It's supposed to be hot, and sometimes it's freezing cold. And
you don't have to put a jacket
who knows?
on, or yeah. Shorts, jeans. Yeah.
No, you just exactly. You just keep one with you, no matter what.
Yeah, that's it.
Crazy.
So again, thank you.
New South Wales is the same. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say thank you so much for coming on the show and taking your time to have a chat to us, guys. Really does mean a lot.
Yeah, no problems. And thank you for sharing some of the bits and pieces that you've been doing with your channel and this show as well, just through our meetups and stuff. So look, you know, more shows like this is good for the collecting community and sort of with the world being small the way it is now, with YouTube, you know, you can be at both ends of the earth in, you know, lightning speed.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what we love about this channel. It's just bringing everyone, doesn't matter which continent or country you're in. It's just great to be able to all come together.
Yeah.
No reason to be not to catch up anymore, is there really?
No.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I think I must spend at least a couple of hours a day in Zoom meetings or Skype meetings or something, with some part of the US or wherever else, just with the work that I do. And I tell you what, it would have been a lot more difficult even 10 years ago. So thank goodness for that.
Yes, definitely made it a lot easier. Yeah. Awesome. Well, obviously you're a sketch artist for Topps cards. So I guess we'd just like to throw that out and just find a bit of information on how you got into that.
Yeah, sure. So, like always been into art from a child and toys as well. And so the toys sort of brings me around into how I got that gig. So I used to go to, I still do go to swap meets every weekend and buying things and keep things for collection, sell some stuff. And I managed to get hold of some very rare Star Wars figures. This is a good story that has gone around the traps, is that I was at a swap meet in the southern suburbs of Western Australia maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And at the time I was buying video games, and the guy, as I was leaving, got a large black garbage bag and strewn it across the car park. And out of that garbage bag, amongst a bunch of other toys, were 4-carded Star Wars figures.
Wow.
Power of the Force Yak Face, Power of the Force Anakin Skywalker, Lando General, and Imperial Dignitary. Obviously, Yak and Anakin being the hot ticket items there. I didn't know what they were. I wasn't a vintage Star Wars toy collector at the time, but I knew when I asked him how much, and he said $5 each. I said, well, I guess I got to take him, right? They've got to be worth more than $5.
That's right. Let's go on that. So that put me in touch with some of the very, very large American toy collector groups that I find like that, and so built up some friendships there. And so being involved with the Star Wars crew, say 18 months later, I was on a family holiday, was doing some drawings of Star Wars characters and just giving them away to group members. And somebody reached out and said, hey, would you like to do this officially for Topps trading cards? And that was back in early 2017. And ever since then, I've worked on almost everything you can imagine. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Stranger Things, The Walking Dead. I've done stuff for Marvel and DC through Upper Deck trading cards and Cryptozoic, all the way through to private commissions for TV execs and all sorts of stuff. So it's awesome. Been, and so now essentially art plays a much bigger role in my life than the toy collecting does at the moment. But I still have it all. I still have rooms and rooms full of stuff.
That's
awesome.
Incredible.
That's excellent. Yeah.
So Brent, has art? Obviously art's a part of your professional life now, but personally, has it always been something that you've done? For leisure? Like, were you an artistic kid? Did it start as far back as you can remember, or is it something you discovered later on that you just had a knack for? Because, mate, I've seen your work. It's incredible. Like, it doesn't strike me as something that you've been toiling at for the past couple of years. It looks like it's it's something that you've been doing for a really long time.
I have been artistic my whole life, in a sense. Never, but only professionally, I guess. In more recent times. And if I take a business approach to something, and I own a few businesses and stuff, is that when someone gives me the opportunity to do art as a job, one thing I'm very good at is not letting people down. So if someone gives me a deadline or gives me a contract with a bunch of terms that I need to meet, that's really, really helpful for me. I'm not a free spirit artist. I'm not someone who sort of whimsically can sort of just has a million ideas on the go, and I like to be left to my own devices. I really like sort of either the client or a company coming to me and saying, hey, this is what we need. This is the style we need it in. This is how many, and so on, and then let me go for it. And so I've learned more about art techniques and style in the last 4 or 5 years than almost anything. Almost probably the rest of my life previously. Previous that I failed art at school. I did great art at school, but I used things like ballpoint pens. I wasn't sort of following the traditional rules that you should follow in art class at school. And so there's always been a knack there for it. It's hard for me to talk about it myself as a talent. I just feel like it's something I like doing. But it's always been there, and I'm lucky now that I get to do it. I don't get to just draw Star Wars characters for myself. I get to draw them for Star Wars. I get to draw them for Disney and Topps and all that.
When you do the cards, Brent, do you have to do many versions and then they choose one out of those versions that you do?
No, so the way
on your, sort of like what you do is what you do.
Yeah, so the way it usually works is they'll say that we're releasing a product on a certain date, and we require you to make a minimum of 30 sketch cards that will be inserted into packs. And so I'll nominate, however many I want, and let's say 30 is the case. Then I'll have a very long contract full of lots of, Mickey Mouse lawyer stuff. And then I get to go through. So in the case of Star Wars, I'm doing a job at the moment for Star Wars, and the contractor will say things like, these are the things you can't draw. You can't draw anything where the character is pointing a gun towards the card holder. You can't draw Darth Vader's crushed helmet. Lots of stuff that probably doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but somebody up higher has thought of it. And then I just go for it. Essentially, they have a portfolio from me, so they know the style that I work in. They know essentially what to expect from me. So when they get me on board, they know that I'm not going to be too outlandish or anything, and I'm not going to stretch their rules and stretch the friendship. So I do all the cards, and then I FedEx them back to the US, and they go to New York, and then they go to Pennsylvania, and then they go into a sorting machine, and then that's it. And so when you look at the back of a pack of Star Wars or Garbage Pail or whatever it is, trading cards, you'll see that the odds, might be the odds of finding a sketch card maybe one per box or one per case or whatever it is. So yeah, it's pretty hard to find one of my sketch cards in a pack. There's probably, you'd have to open thousands of packs, to potentially get. Yeah, but I guess that's the beauty of it, is when somebody opens it up and they realize that it's not just another base card, it's actually something that's hand drawn and hand signed. It's
that's amazing.
Wow.
It's a great feeling,
it's a proper case hit. Like, that's what gets people buying more packs, buying more boxes, for the odds to secure one of them. Correct.
And so what I've been able to do is, if you've seen any of the stuff that I've done that has that sort of rainbowy effect to it, I developed that as a way to try and mimic a rainbow foil refractor on a card. And so now my style of card is a really great chase for collectors, because they're very consistent in the way that they look. And so if you can display, if you can get one or you can get multiple of them, they look great lined up because there's a consistency there. And so it's great that when I watch live streams of people opening packs, somebody will turn the pack to the side, and then you'll see the overspray of all the red and the blue and the green and stuff down the side, and they know straight away, and all the comments will pop up. That's a Brent. That's a Brent. So
that's really cool.
It's been a great journey.
So what's one of your cards worth on the on eBay if they sell it?
Anywhere from, it depends on the character and stuff and the franchise, but anywhere from $80 all the way up to sort of $400 or $500, depending on what it is. Yeah. So keeping in mind that that's only it's a 2.5 by 3.5 inch piece of cardboard, and I have to do them in a relatively short amount of time, so they're maybe not as pretty as the ones that you would get if you were to commission me for one, but they're certainly unique compared to a lot of sketch cards might just be black and white. They may even just be pencil. Depending. So some people will take on 100 cards, and the payment for us is the same. So whether I put in an hour or 2 or 3 hours per card effort in, or someone does a rough pencil sketch, the payment for us is the same. It's really, it's almost like having 30 random business cards inserted into, an officially licensed product. So that's the way I have to look at it to sort of justify the payment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
That's interesting. So,
what's
Brent,
your favorite? Sorry.
Oh no, sorry, Matt. You go ahead, mate. Go for it.
What's your favorite property that you done cards for, Brent?
I really like Garbage. Yeah, I really like Garbage Pail Kids. I grew up. I was born in '83, so I grew up 86, 87. 3, 4, 5 years old, buying the Garbage Gang sticker packs from the local deli. And that stuck with me forever, because they were banned at school because they were too gross and that sort of thing. And
that just made it cooler, though.
It did, yeah, exactly right. That just made you want to have them more. It was a bit of an underground market for having Garbage Gang stickers. So I like doing those because it's a comedy element. It's a fun. It's all parody, and I get to be a lot more creative with that side of things because. Garbage Pail Kids, unlike Star Wars, I get to have a lot more freedom. I have less gatekeepers telling me what I can and can't do with the franchise. Whereas with Disney, it's very, very rigid. you do anything outside of the contract, and it's sort of lights out for your career there. So I like doing that. I've done some stuff for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was fun, but again, it was very restricted. It was only the black and white comics. So I didn't get to do across the Knit Turtles universe. So I think if I had the opportunity to do either the real Ghostbusters or to do the TMNT adventures, like the Archie comic style Turtles, those would be really really fun to do.
Yeah, nice.
Excellent.
Well, you kind of answered my question there, Brent. I was going to ask, you're in the trading card space, you're talking about like super fractors and like chase cards and stuff. I'm curious, like whether it was growing up or later as like an adult collector, whether trading cards were part of your kind of personal life before you found your way professionally into that space.
Yeah, trading cards are probably my earliest memory of collecting. Certainly the first time I was able to potentially and pay for it with my own money.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, a toy being even $10, $8, $10 for a Ghostbusters figure. And that's not an amount of money I would have had at the age of 6. That's something that you would request for birthdays and Christmas and stuff. Whereas a pack of RoboCop cards or something like that might be 40 cents. And so 40 cents is an amount of money that mum might throw at you to shut you up. And sort of, you get your bubblegum cards and the bubblegum get tossed. One of my very earliest memories is my mum finding a hoard of uneaten bubblegum sticks from trading card packs behind a wardrobe in my room because I only wanted the cards and the stickers. The bubblegum was terrible then. It still is now. Do not eat that, Matt. Please don't. It wasn't good it wasn't any good in 1985, and it's still not good now.
No, it's not. I remember getting rugby league cards, and I think that we chucked the gum in our mouth, and it must have lasted a minute or two, and we just went, got rid of it. But rugby league cards.
And so those rugby league cards and cricket cards, depending on the year, they would have been made by Scanlons if they were pre-90s, and if they were post-90s, they would have been made by Dynamic Marketing. So I have a long history with trading cards. The long history with the companies that sort of made them, and that's a personal passion of mine.
Well, tell us about Dynamic Marketing a little bit. What's happened there with those guys? I've done a little bit of research, Brent, so I know a little bit. Oh, a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Well, I own the name. Yeah, I own the name Dynamic Marketing now. So, they went bust in maybe the early 2010s. Probably before that, to be honest. I think that they haven't made trading cards since past 2003, and in 2013 they let everything lapse. They didn't have any registrations or copyrights or holdings on any of the logos and stuff. And so I just one random day, me just looking at my cards and going, I wonder what happens. And I've done that with everything, like I've looked up Tarzos and all those brands and thinking like, I wonder if I could buy Tarzos. I wonder if I could buy Oddbods, something like that. And Dynamic Marketing, just funnily enough, came up. They weren't even really a trading card company. They were just a printing company. It was Dynamic Marketing and Printing Proprietary Limited. Yeah. And they were just a printing company that happened to get into trading cards, and that was just a huge success for them through those years. In the early basically the 90s was a big market for them. Yeah. They managed to get some big licenses, and it was great for them. But prior to that, their core was just flyer printing and just generic printing.
I think I've got some cricket cards, actually. I was going to try and track them down to see. Pretty sure they were Dynamic Marketing.
So, they probably were if they're 90s, yeah.
When I heard that story, I heard you telling that story, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Because
yeah, you'd be surprised. Some things just don't, some things get bought up by companies like Coca-Cola and stuff, and they will hold on to those copyrights for a very long time. And the same thing goes for toys as well. But every now and then something will happen, So every now and then somebody will just let the the copyright lapse on it, and you can snag up a name or an IP or something. One of the art jobs I do at the moment is for Pog, the Milk Caps game Pog.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they're coming back as a digital game and Web3 sort of based thing. And that the same, the guy that I do the work for, he just happened to reach out to the guy who's owned the license since the 90s, and he said, "Hey, do you want to do something?" And they said, "Yeah." So
that's awesome.
Yeah, like all of these brands end up somewhere. Sometimes they find a home, sometimes they don't. So yeah,
super interesting. Yeah. So you're still collecting toys, or you just kind of put that on hold for a bit?
No, I still get toys, and having the Nexus Toy Fair keeps me in it, and I have my focuses that I really like. So I have a lot of vintage Star Wars stuff that I bought after I found the Yak and the Anakin. That started my collection. It's a weird thing to most collectors, because I started at probably the two hardest things to find and worked my way all the way back down to the easiest stuff to find. Whereas a lot of people I know who are in the vintage scene, the Yak and Anakin carded Power of the Force figures are the hardest ones to find. And so, yeah, I still have a lot of that stuff. Some stuff I won't part with. I have a complete run of the animated droids figures, all carded, which I love. A complete run of the Ewoks animated figures, which I love. A big booklet, a big production booklet of animation cells from Ewoks as well. Which is stunning. A bunch of vintage Star Wars, a lot of vintage loose turtles. I used to have a lot of carded turtles when you could buy them on eBay for $20.
Yeah.
And then I moved house and used the money for something else. But I have a lot of vintage turtles, loose stuff. Lots of funny stories along the way. When you've been collecting toys your whole life, certain weird things happen. Like I've bought my personal friend's toys off of his parents at a swap meet, and he didn't even know. And then had to tell him that, like, oh, I bought your Ninja Turtles off your mum on the weekend at a garage sale, and he's like, oh, why did they sell my stuff without asking me? So
yeah, that's a new one. I haven't heard that.
Yeah. I told him if he ever wanted them for his kids, he can just have them. So, I love the hunt. I like finding. Yeah. I love hunting for the stuff. Probably like yourselves. Once you get it and it's on display, and you're an adult with adult things to do, it can be hard to sort of find the time to really sit and appreciate them as much as you'd like. But as long as you've got something to sort of hunt for, that's really the key. That you're always looking for the next thing. Like I heard you guys talking about Toxic Crusaders before you came on, and again, loved it. Loved the cartoon. Loved the toys. I had a few of them. Toxic Crusaders. I have vivid memories of collecting both Toxic Crusaders and the Amazing Crash Test dummies at the same time. And I think maybe some of the Shack Attack toys, the Shaquille O'Neal toys as well. So I have these. That's the part about it that I like, is if I can connect a memory to it. That's what makes it fun for me. Is that if I can see it and it reminds me of something I had as a kid. One thing that I don't have, it's not that I can't get it, I just want to find it in the wild, is an Undercover Don, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Undercover Don. It's something that I remember us moving house and things just having to go, and so I had him complete, and then we moved house and he didn't have his suitcase, and then 3 months later he didn't have his hat, and all I'm left with is the figure, and so I would love to find one of those in the wild again. I could go buy it, but that's not as fun. I think for me, depending on the collection, like if I was to just go on eBay and buy it, I think having that without actually finding it is not much more satisfying for me than just looking at the photo of it on the internet. Certain stuff you have to, when you're completing a run, certain time, every now and then you'll have to just fill those gaps. And I've done that with my last 17 Star Wars run. I had to buy Luke Skywalker, Luke Stormtrooper because he's not gonna it's just not going to pop up. I'd be hunting for 10 years before he just popped up in the wild, and probably never really, to be honest. And so sometimes you just got to fork out whatever it is to just fill those gaps. So I love the hunt. I don't mind buying. I really love that the toy companies are cashing in on the retro thing, because I think that the people who love the stuff but don't necessarily want, the people who love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles but don't necessarily want to fork out, $1,000+ to get a couple of the original 88 ones on card. For them to have them for $13-15 is just perfect. For those people, it's not the same for someone like me, because I want the sense memory attached to it. I want to be able to sort of have to know that it was printed in the 80s or whatever it was. So yeah, like everyone's got their things. I still collect toys, a lot of them. And I also, every now and then, somebody can't make it to the toy fair and just needs to get out of a collection really quick. And then I'll just buy that collection, and then it goes into a storage place where I every now and then I'll just pull out a box and just see what's inside. So
that's awesome.
I did that recently, and hey.
Oh no, Brent, I don't want to interrupt you, mate, but I was just going to say that I agree with what you've said 100%, mate. It's about collecting, it's about hunting. It's not necessarily about owning everything. You know what I mean? We always talk about this. Like when you're collecting, you don't want to get to that finish line. You don't want to just buy everything in one hit. Like it's nice to be able to take someone's collection off their hands or get a bulk lot that gets you well on your way, but it also kind of takes part of the fun of piecing it all together. Matt and I always talk about the satisfaction when you're collecting of getting accessories piece by piece just in your travels and over time completing your things. So I just was going to say I'm with you 100% on that. But, it's about the hunt more than just owning everything that you want,
Yeah, I think so. And recently here in WA, I guess Australia-wide, we've had some really big lotto days, right? So we've had like two $20 million lottos and a $160 million lotto. And you look at those, if you were to win, for me, I'll use me as my case. Like if I was to win $20 million, I still think I would probably go to the swap meets every Sunday, just hoping to find it. I would rather find it than to just go, there it is, it sits on a shelf, I'll never look at it again. Going into a shop and finding that's different. I guess that's still hunting. Every now and then you're going to walk into one of these secondhand toy stores, they've just got some stock in, and you just managed to snag it. Now, you might still pay essentially market value for it, but you still found it. It wasn't just sort of like typing into eBay, Kenner, Indiana Jones, ... and just buy it now. If you need to complete your run, awesome. I think that's a great idea. If some stuff is just impossibly hard to find, vintage Star Wars stuff, Australia didn't have nearly as much of it, or definitely not still in box as the US does. The US, it just seems that half the US, everyone's grandma bought them vintage Star Wars stuff, put it in the attic, and forgot to bring it down because there's just so much. There's just so much sealed stuff around. It's kind of amazing. And when you think about it, like if there's that much sealed vintage Star Wars still going around, like how much did they actually produce? Because most kids did open and play with their toys. So I mean, they just made phenomenal amounts of that stuff. It's kind of bizarre. There must be just so much like landfill of toys, floating around, right?
Crazy.
Scary to think.
Brent, you were talking Toxic Crusaders for a moment and looking at a lot of your work, particularly the Garbage Pail Kids stuff that has that gross out theme, obviously, a common element of Toxic Crusaders. Have you done any work with or for or as part of the Toxic Crusaders property?
I haven't done any work with them yet. I had a email conversation back and forth with Michael Hers, who was one of the co-creators or co-owners of Troma. And I reached out to him about the same time that I picked up the Dynamic name, and I reached out to him because I know they're still a fairly independent company, and I said, hey, like what's the story with the Toxic Avenger? And what about trading cards? And they were surprisingly receptive to it because they own it all. It's just a matter of who's going to pay me what and how much I'm going to get, sort of thing. So I haven't done any work for them. I don't think it's the Toxic Crusaders is a weird one because I don't think it's wholly owned by Troma. I think that the animation rights were sold off to whoever was the production company of that. Just the same as the Garbage Pail Kids movie, that terrible movie that came out of the Garbage Pail Kids. That movie is not owned by Topps, and so even though it uses Topps' IP and their characters, they don't have the rights to it, so they can't produce merchandise or anything around that movie because it's owned by somebody somewhere who owns the film rights to it. So there's a little bit more to it than that. I would love to see a Toxic Crusaders set. It would have a very small market, and it's probably why you won't see one unless it's a small independent production company. But it's there in the back of my mind.
Is licensing expensive for, say, you were doing a run of those cards, you want to do a run and you approach them and to get a license? Is a license expensive, or depending on the IP, of course?
Yeah, it depends on the IP, and it depends on what it is that you're making with it, and how widespread that will be. So the licensing is like any business agreement where, if it was a small run of trading cards, I might say, look, this is what I'm looking to create. Yeah. Now they might turn around and say, look, it's just too small fry for us to even look at. No. Or they might say, yeah, but we want 50% or whatever it is. Or they might just say, look, give us 10 grand and you can do whatever you want with it. It really depends a lot. If you're looking at the big stuff like Star Wars, like Topps trading cards. I mean, I think that they were paying, I won't use Star Wars because I didn't know those numbers specifically, but for Major League Baseball, Topps were paying something like $22 million a year to be able to make trading cards with baseball players on them. And that doesn't include acquiring autographs from the players. It doesn't include the product, nothing. That just literally is the purely the right to put the MLB logo and to use the team logos on the jerseys was costing them $22 million a year. And then another company, Fanatics, just recently took that away from them, and because they offered Major League Baseball $200 million a year for that right.
Oh, wow!
So Fanatics are doing a massive thing in the sports card space. I heard that they're likely acquiring Panini that do the licensed cards for heaps of sports in the US. Like the NBA and NFL.
Yeah, well, Panini have lost. So Panini have lost all that. So Fanatics now owns the rights to. Well, first of all, Fanatics bought Topps. So Fanatics owns Topps now. They bought that for, I think, $500 million about a year ago. Then they bought out. So Fanatics did a deal with the Players Association. So all of the players' unions for all the major sports, so baseball, basketball, football, have a players' union. And Fanatics did a deal with the union to basically have trading card rights. And so I think from 2025 or so, Fanatics will own all of it. They'll be making basketball, baseball, football, non-sport, Star Wars, everything. They'll be basically doing it. I'm not sure what's happening with wrestling. Wrestling jumped from Topps to Panini, and then Panini have already lost it again, maybe to someone else. So, again, it's all money and it goes around. But yeah, Fanatics are a multi-billion-dollar company. They can afford anything they want. And they obviously have a deep connection with the players because they sell the licensed jerseys. They have done for years. So they have deep connections with all those teams. But yeah, licensing is a very flexible thing. It really depends on the franchise. I mean, if you went to, I'm trying to think of an example, right? Let's just say you wanted to make a trading card set of the show Cops,
Magic,
right?
No, Monkey Magic.
Yeah, I'd say Monkey Magic, right? So that Monkey Magic might be owned by a family. So there might be a family of the person who wrote it. Actually, here's a good example. I've done work for the Chaney estate, Lon Chaney, the Wolfman, and Chaney Jr.
Yep.
And so Lon Chaney Jr.'s grandson, Ron Chaney, he owns it all. It's an estate. He owns it, and basically that is his business. As he licenses out the rights to use his family's likenesses on any kind of merchandise, and sometimes it's very cheap, and sometimes it's not, and it probably depends. I mean, if you were going to have $30 t-shirts in every H&M store in Australia, I'm sure he'd want a cut. But in my case, I did a very small boutique trading card set for an independent company, and I don't imagine they paid a fortune for it. I don't think they could have afforded to pay a fortune for it. So yeah, I think it's flexible.
Awesome. Very interesting.
Is trading cards as collectible now as they ever were, or do you think it's like you would say the Star Wars and they pump out trading cards sort of thing? Is it as collectible now as it used to be, or do you think? Or?
It's a different collector base now. So now trading cards are almost like a high-end collectible because of the prospect of getting, just like the wax pack that Matt had there of He-Man. Like, I mean, back in the day, the most you could ever hope for was to get 5, 6, 7 base cards and a sticker gum, and that's all they were. I mean, to be honest, Topps only really created trading cards to sell gum because they were a bubblegum company. But now trading cards, you're getting pieces of fabric from costumes, you're getting autographs, you're getting sketch cards, you're getting sometimes film cells, bits of Wookiee hair and all sorts of stuff in the cards. And so
I didn't know
that. So instead of being able to go and buy a pack of cards $1 or $2 from the store like you used to, now you're paying usually by the box. So like someone will buy a box of Star Wars cards, and that could cost you anywhere from $150 to all the way up to $600 or $700 depending on the job. Depending on the set. So the set that I'm working on at the moment is for Masterwork. It's the most expensive, or it's the most premium Star Wars set that Topps do. One box will cost in Aussie dollars probably $500 or $600. Inside of it are only 4 packs. And each one of those 4 packs will have either a sketch, an actor autograph, a medallion, or some sort of like fabric relic. So it might be some fabric from a costume. And so it's a huge departure from just a few cards and a sticker.
Very elaborate.
Yeah. It's really the only way that you could do it, because kids don't have the same collectibles now. Like my kids grew up with iPads and stuff, so they're just things like images on cardboard are just not. It's not what they're. No, it's not the same, it's just the same as like we might have played Pokemon with the cards as a card game. Well, now you would just play that on an app
on your phone,
so
or iPad.
Yeah. So the physical products are sort of taking a slide, but high-end collectibles are a different story. And so trading cards now sort of fall into like a high-end collectible, or even an investment, especially with sports cards.
Yeah, like, I mean, I trading cards were a big part of my childhood. Like, my local video store had an awesome selection, and all I was trying to do then in 1991 or 1992 or whatever, all I was trying to do was complete a set. You know what I mean? Ripping a ton of packs just to try and complete a set. I wasn't trying to look for a serial numbered parallel or like a rare insert or a patch order or something like that. It's just now it almost seems like, as you said, like an alternative asset class. Like people actually, whether it's holding boxes and cases, or whether it's having cards graded and keeping them for like long term as an investment. I mean, it seems to be both at the manufacturing side in terms of the quality, and also at the end user side, just a completely different experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a less print runs, less physical, only available in hobby stores. I mean, I can go to a 7-Eleven here and buy a pack of basketball cards for $3, but it's 5 cards, and it's 5 cards. There is zero chance of getting anything in it besides 5 basketball players on cards. It's the closest you'll ever get to what it was like in the 90s. But in the 90s, I mean,
we didn't know any better.
Yeah, we didn't know any better, and I mean, to get something with a holographic stamp on it, or to get a little foil thing, or even a what do you call it, like a facsimile autograph or something like that printed on the card. I mean, that was huge to us. That was huge. So I mean, people people were selling those cards well before there were autograph cards. People were selling those things for big money. They had trading card shows in the 80s and 90s before there were ever autographs on cards.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit it's different now. It's a shame because it does put it out of the realm of some people. So even now, if someone asks me what I do, and I say, well, I do art for Star Wars trading cards, in their mind, Star Wars trading cards haven't existed since 1985. You know, like so.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in our circle, if you're not in the circles of people who collect things, then a lot of this stuff just doesn't even exist anymore. Because you'll never stumble across it. You know, it's not until someone. I still get so many people go like, "Oh, Garbage Pail Kids, do they still make those?" I was like, "Yeah, they've been making them since 1986. They've always made them." Yeah, and the funniest thing is they've been in Walmart in the US the whole time. But like even I went to LA in 2013, 14, 15. Like, you know, I've been to the US a bunch of times, and there's always been Garbage Pail Kids cards at the checkout. It's just that once you might be 11, 12, 13, and then you sort of like, you know, in my case, maybe I picked up a guitar, and then toys and everything goes out the window for a few years, or you know, you meet someone and you have a family, or you get a job that just sucks up all of your time. Like for a lot of people, it's not that they don't think it exists because they stop looking. Because why would you ever need to go down the toy aisle again if you now work 50 hours a week and you've got kids at home and you've got bills and all the stuff, you know, like really collecting toys is almost like a luxury, or collecting anything really is a bit of a luxury because it requires time, and time is the one thing that we have very little of, let alone, you know, I've got enough time to go out for a couple of hours on a Sunday morning and look for stuff. But when it makes it back to my house and sits in a box, finding the extra time to be able to sift through that box and really appreciate it and clean it and give it the attention it probably deserves to go on display, sometimes I won't see that time for months. You know, I might even have to wait until I shut down the businesses for a couple of weeks at the end of the year so that I've got a few hours here and there to be able to look through some stuff. So you're all very lucky having your nice displays and stuff there, because it means that you've had enough time over a period to be able to, you know, to get that to a point. And then if you're anything like maybe me, is that you get it just set up very nicely and it all looks great, and you think like, oh, I could do with another cabinet over there. I think I might just shuffle this around, or I might move this shelf to, and then it all just ends up in a big pile again, and then it's another 6 months before it's exactly right. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, always a work in progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, mate, shifting back to the toys, if we can, like, we're really interested to hear or to understand how your involvement, your management of the Nexus Toy Fair came about. I mean, we all love toy fairs as much as the next collector. So, because from what Ryan's been telling us, the Nexus Toy Fair has been around since the 90s, and you know, listen. You certainly don't look old enough. Well, you're born in 83. You've shared that with us. So obviously you weren't running it back then. So no. how did that come about?
I don't even remember how I found out about it. But essentially I went there just as a buyer a couple of times, and then I remember seeing the it did start in the 90s. A lady named Katrina, she started it, and it was just like a really small thing, small black and white flyer, and it was even popular back then. And it changed hands, I think, a couple of times. But I went there as a buyer a couple of times. The owner somehow, I think I might have even approached him. We might have been standing in line and saw some buyers sort of walking around getting an early snoop. Some sellers walking around the other vendors' tables getting a bit of an early snoop. And I went up to the owner and I said, hey, look, if you ever need a hand to set up tables and to sort of, you know, kind of get the operation going, like, you know, I'm happy to help, you know, and all I want is to be able to have a walk around before the general public get in. And he, at the time, he needed someone, and it was just a lucky break there. And I did that for about 8 years, and I was happy just sort of getting my early access. As soon as 9:05 hit and the public went in, I was out. And it got to a point where I think that he was more of a coin and stamps guy. It was more of a collector's fair than a toy fair, and technically it is toy and collector's fair. And I think the audience, I think what he used to go there for himself, not only what he was selling, but what he was going there for, maybe wasn't at the forefront. And he'd been doing it for a long time. So he just said, hey, look, when I'm done with this, do you want to just have it? I don't want anything for it, but I want to have, my 7 or 8 vendor tables in perpetuity. I said, well, sure, let's do it. I'd rather keep it going than you sort of just let it slide, down. And that happened probably 3 years ago now, right before COVID. That was great timing. And so that's it. So like, I still do, even as the guy who runs it, I still do exactly what I did before I had that. I go there, I get there before the center opens, and I set up the tables and the chairs, and I get to have 20 minutes to have a little walk around, which I usually don't get to have a look at stuff because the vendors are all saying hi and good to see you again and all that stuff. And then that's it. So I don't get to have a look as much as I'd like, but it is really nice to sort of see. I do get a lot of compliments about sort of the content of the stuff that we have there, that we're not looking. I'm not looking to necessarily get. I don't want Zing to have a display there where they take up half the fair. Like we really want to have the people who are bringing the stuff that's been tucked away. We want to have the collector stores there as well that sell what everyone wants and needs. But we really pride ourselves on having a really long-term base of people. So some of the sellers who sell their vintage stuff at my fair have been selling their vintage stuff at that fair for 20 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're telling me stories about stuff. They're telling me stories about them, when they were throwing out 1985 Star Wars figures in royal show bags, in 1993, because there were just thousands of them in a warehouse. So for $10, you could go and get a show bag at the Royal Show, and it had like carded Power of the Force vintage figures in it that are worth thousands of dollars now. So those are some really cool. Yeah, like the stories are great, the people are great. We would love to expand it, but expanding it means it becoming more than just 4 Saturdays a year for me. It means it becoming something like gigantic, and costs go up. Like we keep it really simple. Tables are $35. It costs $2 to get in. It's not a we keep it super accessible. I don't need to necessarily pay my bills using the toy fair. So I like to keep it that way as long as I can. I don't want to shock people by saying all of a sudden it's going to be $5 entry or $10 entry, and the seller tables are going to be $70, $80, $100 each. So I like that it's small, but it's focused, that we have a good selection of everything. If you want a Funko Pop, come and get it. We got them there. If you want, or like Ryan would tell you, like if you want something that's obscure and just pure dumb luck, happen to be sitting there in a sandwich bag with a $3, scribbled on it in black texture, then that's there as well. Yeah, it's not everyone who's selling there is like a hardcore collector. You're not paying market price. You can definitely find some you can go to like this. Exactly, you can go to like a really focused toy fair like we have, and still manage to find something where you're like, holy shit, this thing's worth like $100, and I got it for $5. So it's great. It's like a big, huge swap meet, except it's like condensed down into just the kind of stuff that you like.
That's awesome. I mean, we'll have Matt, Andrew, and I just got back from a toy hunting trip in Melbourne, so at some point we'll have to get over to the West and do some toy hunting over there with Ryan and check it out. There's just a question from Ed5 here, and I just want to say g'day, Ed5. AJ's Movie Place and Classified and Rolando and those people in the chat. Ed's just asking, when is the fair? Oh, well, where is it? It's in Perth, I assume. And so 4 times a year at the moment?
Yeah, so it's usually every January, April, July, and October, so school holidays. And we sort of I'll have those dates, the next one's dates up there if I don't already. But the next one is, I think, going to be January 14th, and it's at Leisure Life Recreation Centre. So it's held over like 2 massive basketball courts. And it runs from 9 till midday. Like in 3 hours we get 150 tables of vendors in set up. We get about anywhere from 11 to 1,500 people through there in 3 hours, and then it's all packed up and empty at 1 in the afternoon. So it's perfect for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
but again, I'd love for it to be something bigger or to hold it more times a year. But it would require me to have it as a bigger venture than just a torch that I'm carrying on for the fair at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. I'm with Ed 5. I'm with getting a group together and crashing Perth for one of these Nexus fairs. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So
yeah, do it. Yeah.
Yeah, so Brent, having been involved in the fair for so long, initially in sort of an unofficial assistance capacity, right through to running the thing, how has it been? It must have been interesting to see the evolution of the toy collecting space, the different categories of collectibles kind of come and go, and the emergence of modern collectibles, this kind of, cashing in on the nostalgia as we were talking about. Have there been things you've observed, things that have come and gone, fundamental changes in what you see there at these fairs, or has it always been Star Wars and Motu and TMNT from the time you've been involved?
Yeah, that stuff is always there. I mean, the short answer is kind of yes, it's always going to be those same things, because that's really where our market is. If you're in the sort of mid-20s to sort of late 50s sort of age range, you're in that sort of world of everything, from Ghostbusters, Ninja Turtles, Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, and those things have become less prevalent there, because obviously as those things come out of the cupboards, they get snapped up by people who hold on to them for life, and you don't see them as much. But every now and then, somebody will rock up and they're like, oh yeah, I've just had this stuff for 30 years, and they set up a table and people just go crazy. It's like a seagull on a chip, they're just people everywhere. And we have, I mean, you get everything. I mean, but you've also got you'll see the prequel stuff. I guess as a Star Wars collector, a lot of the Star Wars toy collectors aren't big on the prequel stuff, but keeping in mind that when those movies came out, there was a generation of 10-year-olds that when those prequels came out that started to love Star Wars again. And so even though it might not necessarily be my Star Wars as far as what I remember it to be, for someone who's half my age or so, that is their Star Wars, or maybe even the sequels, the new ones, where I know from people collecting my artwork and stuff that I'm getting asked a lot more to draw Rey and Poe and those characters, and I'm like, oh, that's really counterintuitive to me that they're not that everyone who's asking me for something isn't asking me for an original trilogy character. So every now and then you will see this stuff, and Funko Pops are a good example of that, where as someone who runs a toy fair, you can turn around and you can see them everywhere, and there is a point where it gets a bit too much, because they're down. One of the downsides to Funkos is that they display perfectly brand new in the box. So there's no market for loose versus the market for loose versus in packet is not the same as toys. And so essentially everyone who has a Funko collection has a new in-box Funko collection, right? Right. And so there are some really valuable stuff in there. And I've been really surprised at some of the money, the money that people are getting for certain stuff that's getting on quite old now. But we also have to be careful that it doesn't become the Funko Fair. Just as it for a while there, our Nexus Fair, I think something like 20 of our 130 tables were taken up by like a Lego group, like the Brick Society or something like that, and it was basically 30 or so people who took up this entire table donut in the middle of the fair, and it was all Lego, which is great if you're a Lego collector. But if we're getting 1,200 people in there, aged from 5 to 65, the first thing you start hearing is like it's all Lego. Because not only have I got the Lego guys there, I've got the oddball people that are scattered around that are also selling Lego, right? So finding the balance of toys and catering to all markets. Like I don't want to discount the people who sell even handicrafts and stuff. Like we'll get a comment sometimes with someone going like, why is there someone selling like handicrafts here when it's a toy fair? Until they find out that the person who was selling Harry Potter pillow slipcovers made $600 in 3 hours. And then they're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that like there's a market for everything, man. That's what, just the same as like I don't know why there's a market for Polly Pocket. It's just not my thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I would never discount that there is a market for it. No. There's a market for newspaper clippings. There's a market for coins. There's a market for
stamps.
I mean, stamps. There's and even just the blank card backs from toys, or just even the Lego minifigures, like not Lego sets, just the little figured dudes. We have this great
for everything out there. It's interesting to see.
Yeah. I think that's the main thing to keep in mind, like with these things, is that you might walk around like a convention or a fair and you see something that looks bizarre to be there, but you'd be surprised sometimes at like what keeps that person coming back, and it's because they're making hundreds of dollars because people love it. And keep in mind as well, sometimes a whole family is coming along to the toy fair when there's only one person in the family who really wants to be there, and so having some stuff there that caters to everyone is good as well. So there's more to it than me just sort of like, I don't just take someone's $30 and go, thanks, bye. Like we got to pay attention to sort of like who is placed where and whatnot.
For sure. So you sorry, I'm just trying to get my words out. So are you guys kind of, you mentioned 150 tables, are you having inquiries for more tables, and it's a bit of a game of Tetris trying to fit everybody in there? Like the venue you're at now, is it kind of capped in terms of how many tables you can have, and it's first in best dress kind of thing, or how do you manage that?
Yeah, so we have a long list who are waiting for tables, and we do manage to sort of skate new people in every time. Just someone might be on holiday, or they get sick, or they drop out, or whatever it is. So we do manage to sort of push through, but with the demand for a table is much larger than what we have. We, like I said before, we have the capacity to expand, but then we can even expand within the venue we have. There are 2 courts in one side of the building, and there's another single court on the other side of the building. But for me to expand to that, then I need to probably pay people to manage that, to manage people going in and out and tickets and that person, really to pull them out on a Saturday, and I'd have to give them at least a couple of $100 probably to sort of deal with that stress. And so that $100, that $200 has got to come from somewhere. And that might mean that putting the prices up or whatever. And then you also risk, I do remember when the previous owner had it, he did open up that 3rd court, and he had 5 or 6 dropouts, and the 3rd court looked half full, it looked empty, and people were upset. Oh, they went to that one and spent their money there first, and when they came over to this side they had no money, and then vice versa, and it just caused a lot of like rumbles within the sellers, as far as like, well, if people have a fork in the road, these guys are going to be upset that they spend all their money over here, and vice versa. So and this, I will say to people, like, the most common thing I get asked is, why don't we go bigger? To keep in mind for a seller as well, like, there's only so many things you can sell. And so when we expand the amount of people who can sell stuff at the fair, that doesn't mean that there's always going to be more of the stuff you like, there's probably a 90% chance it's just more of the same stuff. So, then all of a sudden, if you're a Lego seller, then your sales would be diluted because I will be selling tables to other Lego sellers or Funko sellers or so on and so forth. Again, the amount of people who are there selling really, really cool vintage stuff is still relatively small. The people who have been coming forever, they get the opportunity to rebook on the day. And they wouldn't be rebooking on the day unless they felt like A, they had stuff that was worth buying, and B, people were buying it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, like, are you guys? Is everyone Eastern States besides Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in Sydney.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we're all New South Wales.
Right. And so do you guys have sort of similar sort of fairs and stuff over there?
Yeah, we do. We've got CollectorCon over here, which Ryan fairly recently came and checked out at Penrith. So that's really our big one here. There are a couple of others, but as far as I'm aware, anyway, unless there's people in the chat that can fill me in, if I don't think I'm missing any, but it's mainly CollectorCon at Penrith and Campbelltown, and it does sound like a similar setup, Brent. The best ones are at these like suburban recreational centres that have dual basketball courts and multiple as needed, so there can be 2 halls or 3 halls depending on how many tables there. So yeah, I mean, I'm really enjoying CollectorCon each time that rolls around. We've got one coming up in a few weeks, but it does sound quite similar in terms of the sort of venue and the setup, especially from what I've seen of Ryan's videos of the Nexus Toy Fair as well.
Yeah, I think there's a delicate science to it as well, as far as, like, put it this way, like, Supernova is not going to be getting someone who found a bunch of toys in their shed to pay $1,500 to $5,000 for a stall, right? Yeah. So there is a benefit to keeping things very small and very kind of rickety and sort of pop-up style, because it attracts the people that probably have the stuff that you want, because they figure, like, I've got a bunch of junk that I need to get rid of. It's $30 a table. It's half a Saturday. Why not? Let's go for it. Yeah. Whereas I guess if we were to expand and we made it this big, gigantic thing, then not only do I need to make more money to cover those costs, but then I need to bring other things in. Then all of a sudden I am trying to run something like a Supernova, and then it does become out of access for someone who found a box of old toys in their garage, because they don't want to pay. They don't know whether they're going to make any money. And at the moment, if they pay somewhere, if I take Collector Zone, which is our other toy fair, if they pay between $35 and $50 for a table, at the very worst, if they walked away empty-handed, they lost half a Saturday and $50. Compare that to potentially paying hundreds of dollars for a stall without even knowing whether what you have is any good. Because again, some of these people are not collectors. They're literally like, oh, my dad passed away and he collected stuff, and here it all is. And they had no idea when they get swarmed on the day that when they walk away with a couple of grand, like, they had no idea. And there's almost like a perfect way to have it not too big. And unfortunately, that means that it's going to be a bit harder to get in if you want to be a seller, but that's the reason why it's so good. You want to be a seller at Nexus because Nexus has all the really cool vintage sellers. And the only way that I have those vintage sellers is because I don't charge them a fortune. It's not a big corporate thing. Like, I'm not charging for parking. You know what I mean? It's just like I pay a venue hire. Everyone shows up. They already have the tables there because they run like a gigantic bingo there. So they already have 150 tables for me. I literally have to supply nothing. I bring a tablecloth and a few family, friends, volunteers and stuff. And then it's all done. It's great.
And likewise for the actual collectors that are attending as well. Like, if they're only paying a couple of bucks, if that, to get in, then they're not like having a trade-off of, well, what if I don't find anything that I want? My out-of-pocket $20 or whatever. So, Brent, it sounds like you've kind of found that sweet spot, and it ticks along really nicely. And hopefully, I get the chance at some point. I'll make it happen, but I want to get over there and check it out myself.
Yeah, look, I mean, again, that's you're perfectly right. I mean, you can go in there with a $20 note and walk out with something, and people have done. You know, there are kids there who are playing basketball, and they finish playing basketball at 10 in the morning, and the parents are like, "What the hell's going on here? There's people everywhere," and they go in, you know, and then they go in and they walk. Yeah, $10, $20, and you can get something. I mean, you can sometimes you can get some really, really, really good stuff for $20 or less, which is great because. The last time I went to Supernova, I think I was $150 out of pocket before I even walked in the door. You know, I had a ticket and I had parking and I had, you know, you want to get a chicken roll and chips in there. That's another $20. You know, like so. Yeah, and again, it's mostly retail and those things, and it's not that interesting to me. Just the same as like it's not as interesting for me to walk around Kmart as it is for me to walk around. A car park at 5 a.m. rummaging through other people's junk.
That's it.
There's just something a lot more fun about it, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And that's the thing I love about Nexus Toys. There's always really good variety, and it's also organized in good areas. That's what I was talking about last time, Brent. The last one we had was awesome to have a good section of vintage areas to go through.
Well, that happens naturally, Ryan, because like I said, I call it vintage alley because what it is there's all the sellers that have been coming for a decade or more. Everyone loves the wall spot because there's no one behind them and they can display their stuff up the wall. And everyone says, "Can I get a wall spot?" And you can't because the people who have those spots have been bringing their vintage stuff to sell at that fair for a decade or more. And so naturally what's happened is there's one wall in this fair where every table is just like vintage toys, vintage comic books, vintage toys, vintage comic books, and it's just it's awesome. Like there's like I liken it to like I used to love when Toys R Us was like a thing around here, like still like I used to call it like the dark aisle because all the boys' toys all had really dark packaging. And so, like, when you went down the aisle, it seemed all very dark and moody and that, but everything in there was exactly what I wanted. And so that's like that at Nexus. There's this one run of wall spots where everyone's been coming there for a decade or more and everyone has all the vintage stuff. And then you've got a few more that are scattered around, but there's just this one very concentrated, like, alleyway in the fair that just naturally happened like that.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome. We've got Treasures for Trigger in the chat. Hey, Phil, how you going, mate?
I was going to ask, Brent, have you ever thought of venturing maybe into like, well, I don't know, with artistry and like illustrating, have you ever thought of going into comics or there's something, or I don't know whether that's something you can do. You venture into
toy packaging, like
box art for toys.
Looking at your work and looking at the subject matter, what you do looks like it would lend itself really cool to things like toy packaging. So, yeah, to Matt's question, like, has your art ventured in commercial applications outside of trading cards?
That's the words.
It has. It has to a degree. Usually it starts there. So like one thing I get to do is I get to say that I'm licensed to draw those characters. So that automatically gives me a huge leg up to be able to do something like that. So if I was to approach Hasbro or someone like that, and I do tag them in things, you know, they always have people who are looking. Probably they have people looking to sue me if I ever like draw something that I'm not supposed to.
Well, I hope not.
But if I was, you know, again, that's a commercial illustrator's job is a different one again. So you probably, you know, deadlines and you know, more of a salary position. So at the moment I'm sort of an artist for hire, so I don't have to show up anywhere necessarily all the time. I would love to do stuff for comics. Comics is probably actually easier, especially if I wanted to just do covers or something. So I can approach editors, and Garbage Pail Kids is making a bit of a renaissance in comic books. So IDW and Dynamite Comics, and I've done a bunch of work for Dynamite Comics actually, but not on comic books, but trading cards. And you know, that is a really high potential. Comic book stores actually have the ability to have exclusive covers. So if I wanted to have my artwork featured on the cover of a comic book, what a comic book store could do if I had a big enough following. Is a comic book store can submit a piece of art that I do, and as long as they placed a minimum order of a certain amount of copies, it might be 500 copies, then they will do a store exclusive cover for that store.
Oh, wow.
And then I could have my cover. So Collector Zone, who he did mention to me, he said, "Oh, the new Garbage Pail Kids comic is coming out," and he said, if you thought you could sell 500, 700, whatever the number was, copies of that comic, he goes, we could actually get your artwork on a commercially released comic, which is great, right? And one, I couldn't guarantee him that I could move 700 copies of that comic for him. And two, I'm just so busy all the time that, like, although that sounds like a dream job, and it would be, I still have commitments, and I tend to be sort of committed up months in advance. And not only months in advance of stuff that I've committed to, but then a bunch of people who have said, message me when you're not so busy and we'll do something. So I have done some non-trading card work. Some trading cards have turned into stuff. So I have a really great account you should look at if you like Star Wars and Garbage Pail Kids. I did a character for a set called Garbage Shoot Droids. It's a mashup of Star Wars and Garbage Pail Kids. And I met him when I made an appearance at a convention in Nashville a few years ago, and he just wanted it as a one-off commission, this character. And now it's toys and T-shirts and coloring in pages and all kinds of things. And it's a great mashup that just skates between the lines of legal repercussions from some companies. So what happens when you use other people's IP. So it is art, it is parody, and that's how Garbage Pail Kids and Wacky Packages got away with it, and have been getting away with it all this time, is that there is a point where art allows you to do things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise, if you can sort of if you can get away with it being called art.
I seen him in the chat, Garbage Shoot Droids. I was trying to remember. I watched that interview today.
There you go.
Hey, Adam.
So I was wondering if that was still going. Like, I think I heard it was up to, you've done 7 series. Is that right? And is it still going?
Of of Garbage Shoot Droids?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I do the base art. So I do, Adam would be a great guy to get on here one day. I did 8 of the 7 or 8 of the main characters, and they become the base trading card for the series. And so what we've done is the trading card packs essentially are, you get the new character and then you get all of the old characters as well. So every time we release, there's, the packs of cards get bigger. And he does some really great stuff. And part of it is my fault, because I like to sort of enable people's creativity if they want to, is that he does the packs still in the wax wrappers. There's one company in the US that still has the machines to make wax wrappers.
That's so cool.
And so these are trading cards in a wax wrapper. We have redemptions. We have other artists doing things. He has kids competitions where 7-year-old kids have had their Garbage Shoot Droid printed onto a trading card and mass produced.
That's amazing.
Great guy, great little project there, and it's a mashup of all things sort of Star Wars and Garbage Pail Kids. It's I'm about to start something else for him shortly as well, so that's definitely something I'd like to carry on with.
That was an interesting story. This is a stupid question, but I did, as a young fella, I loved drawing, and I found my artwork outside, and I probably stopped around 17, 18, but I always struggled with just some of the faces. Like, is a part of the human anatomy, like face, eyes, nose, mouth, is there something that you struggle to draw? I always struggled with these parts here, the eyes and nose.
Yeah, eyes are probably it, I would say.
Yeah.
I would say I think if you could nail the eyes properly, you can get away with a lot of things, other things that are wrong with a face. I think the one, like, I had one job in particular, which was for DC. It might have been heroes and villains. And so, like, getting Ben Affleck to look like Ben Affleck while he's wearing a Batman suit is a trick. because all you really have to go off is the eyes. So when I'm doing that painting, it's clearly Batman because of the cowl, but like it can't just be Batman. It needs to be clearly Ben Affleck. And because the contract stated that I was doing stuff from the films, if it didn't look like Ben Affleck under that cowl, then it doesn't meet the criteria for the job.
Yeah.
Wow. And I reckon that's anything that I've ever done that I haven't been super proud of, if it was rushed for time or it just slipped through, and that it's usually an eyes thing, because you look automatically, you just want to look into the eyes. And I'm trying my very hardest to look into the camera here rather than at your faces on the iPad. So the eyes really do say it all. Harrison Ford is a good example. I started a piece for someone today and just I had it, but the eyes I had to keep going back, and it was frustrating me to no end. There was there's a limit where you go like, it's Harrison Ford, and then and that's not Harrison Ford anymore. So the facial features, everyone will say that hands and feet are probably the hardest thing to draw, and I would agree that they are. They're a weird thing, so they would be the hardest thing to draw. But as far as getting likeness and stuff correct, I think if you've got it in the eyes and the eyebrows as well, so if the eyebrows don't extend forward enough or back enough, it's like an uncanny valley thing where you're like, yeah, it looks like Gal Gadot, but I don't know why it doesn't quite hit it. So, and it might just be that, the way her eyebrows are trimmed back, that they didn't go back far enough, and if you don't do the eyebrows far enough backward or forward, it may make their eyes look too far apart in the nose and stuff. So lots of little tricks that I've had to learn over the last few years, because before 2017, I wasn't a portrait artist. I was just someone who drew for fun. And now I'm forced to become a portrait artist because all of my work with Star Wars or The Walking Dead or Stranger Things requires me to have a photorealistic style. And that doesn't mean that it needs to look like a photo, but they mean it in the sense that it needs to look like the person it is. And in case of Star Wars, sometimes we're dealing with deceased people. And so, when you're dealing with something like Carrie Fisher, it's got to be spot on. If it's not respectful to the person that may not be around to sort of have their say on it, then it's got to nail it. And so they will reject more of those. They will probably reject more Carrie Fisher sketches than not, if they're not absolutely spot on with the facial features, just because. Wow. It's got to look like someone who's no longer with us, and it's got to be respectful of that.
Brent, do you find yourself like critical of your own work? Like, do you look back at stuff you've done, especially considering you've only been doing it professionally for a relatively short period of time? Do you look at work you did in 2017 and go, oh my gosh, or are you able to kind of remove yourself from it because you do treat it like it is like a business where you can't just kind of be married to it and be a perfectionist and not submit it until you're 100%. Like you've got to churn it out. So are you able to kind of separate yourself from it and just let it go, or do you find yourself looking back and like cringing at things, or
every now and then I'll see something on eBay that like I did from 2017. I'm like, oh yuck! I almost want to contact the person and say, I'll give you another one for free. Just burn that thing. But at the same time, it shows a progression, doesn't it? And some for me, it's almost an embarrassing progression because, again, like I said, what I'm good at is meeting deadlines, and in a friendly way, I'm competitive in the sense that if I see someone who does extremely good work, then I don't necessarily want to be better than them, but I want to try and get at least to that point because they're getting recognition for how good their work is. So when you look at something I did in 2017, then you look at something I did today, it looks like two different people drew them, and two different people did draw them. One of those people in 2017 was just given the opportunity of a lifetime to do some sketch cards for The Force Awakens. And the guy who's doing them today is now drawn 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 portraits of these people now under deadlines, following guidelines, and so on and so forth. So like my work looks different because I'm forced to get better, faster. I risk also anything that I do that doesn't meet their criteria of photorealistic and stuff. Then there's a chance that basically they'll still pay me for the card, but it gets destroyed. And the payment for the card is not, that's right. And the payment for the card is not worth the time it took to do it. So it's not like, oh, it doesn't matter, I got paid for it. The payment is nothing. If they just said, look, these 10 didn't make the cut, they're just not good enough, and they destroy them, that means a lot to me. Because like I said to you before, these are just like business cards. So somebody pulls a card out of a pack, and they get one of mine and they go, oh, and the first thing they do is they reach out to me on Instagram and they go, oh, I found one of these in a pack, or my kid pulled one of these in a pack, and how much is a commission? And I've had people like pull like a Star Wars actor's sketch out of a pack of cards and then contacted me immediately to do one of their dog.
Wow.
So those sort of things come on. They're like, I like your style. So it's not even like a Star Wars thing. They go, I really love the way that you captured Natalie Portman in this. My dog died a week ago. I really want something for it, and then get me to do that, something that's just completely out of left field. So
it's so cool.
I both love it, and I don't mind the fact that things are different. I still cringe because I know what I could do with it if I had the chance today. Like I know what my output is, my speed and quality and that, because I've got it down to like a system. Whereas back in 2017, I was really just winging it. They just FedExed me 30 blank cards and said, draw anything from The Force Awakens on these. And I was floundering. I just didn't, now like I know weeks in advance, I have all my references mapped out. I have them all cropped and everything ready to go. I color correct anything that I want to have. I have airbrush setups at work and that where I have all the colors ready to go. So for me now, I can put out a much higher quality of work in a much shorter amount of time, which I just didn't have in 2017, and that's fine.
Yeah. Like how fast are you at doing a piece of a sketch card sized piece of art? Like I'm sure you're way quicker than you were previously, and I'm sure it depends obviously on whether it's full color or black and gray, but trading card size piece of art, like how long would you work on something like that?
If it's a Garbage Pail Kids, probably 20 minutes.
Wow.
I can do something pretty good in 20 minutes with Garbage Pail Kids because I'm not trying to get likeness. Star Wars cards are weird because I do them over a period of days. So because of the way their paints and everything dry and work better. But essentially, I think that a Star Wars sketch card would take me 45 minutes to an hour each.
It still seems ridiculously quick to me.
It probably does because of the way that I do it. So there's a lot of you're probably, if you've seen those rainbow refractor style ones, when you break it down into what they are, it's a basic pencil sketch, which probably takes me 20 minutes to half an hour. Airbrushing it takes me 30 seconds. Then it dries overnight, and then the next day all I do is just black and white and tan colored pencil marks on it. And now that I've told you that, you can go back and have a look, and what you will see is a rainbow airbrushed card with some black and white and tan pencil marks all over it. That happens to look like the actor, but it's broken down into components. So like I do it, like today I airbrushed 30 for masterwork. So the whole airbrushing sequence takes me 10 minutes. That's 10 minutes to airbrush color 30 cards. And because I'm not trying to get skin tones and stuff, it's super fast. It's almost like a cheat that everyone loves. Like everyone loves my rainbow refractor style, but the truth of it is it's a cheat. It's a way for me to get a huge I get a really huge effect, and in turn I get to do it really quick, because then if I'm doing like a Obi-Wan Kenobi with a beard, then I'm doing Luke Skywalker with a different skin tone, then I've got Lando with a different skin tone, then I've got Jabba the Hutt with all kinds of stuff going on. that is hard. Like if I was doing it like that and they were all realistic colors, then I would be looking at multiple hours per card. And if someone gets me to do a private commission like that, then they are typically 3 to 4 hours per card.
Wow,
Gotcha.
That's cool.
Are you into NFTs? You probably get asked that all the time. Do you like?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even into it, and I don't really understand it, but I know it's a thing.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah?
So I'm gonna give you a little walkthrough into I am, and I still don't know anything about them. So I did my first run in with NFTs was Garbage Pail Kids. So they released the original Series 2 cards as an NFTs. They contracted me to do 3 or 4 base card images. And then I took photos along the way. So I took photos of a pencil sketch and a half painted one, and the NFT ended up being like an animated GIF of like the process of it becoming a black and white sketch to a painting. It was the card, and those were great. But that was just I did a job, I got paid. That was it. Pog, like I mentioned to you, Pog is now a digital game and an NFT company, and so I've learned in the last 5 months, I've learned so much about NFTs. And when I say so much, I mean almost nothing. Because essentially they are they're just a proof of ownership or a receipt of ownership. And so just like everything I do is one of a kind. We use like algorithms. So I will draw a character. Pogman is the character. He's a little orange furry guy who was on all the Pogs. So I'll draw him, and then I will draw 3 or 4 different pairs of sunglasses and some cups of coffee and some, I don't know, seagulls and fried eggs and airplanes and just whatever else I end up doing for the image. And then it all goes into a thing called a candy machine, and we tell it what layers go on top of what, and then it spits out 2,000 or so unique images. So no two of them are the same. So no one will have the same sunglasses with the same hat with the same whatever. And unlike a lot of NFT stuff where you just get the image and that's all you get, these are used as tokens in the game. So, and that's what we're working on at the moment, is that we have an arcade game where you can play Pogs and you can actually lose your Pog NFT against another player, and you can win theirs as well. But it's like a stock market thing almost as well, where so we will put them out and there might be a set, and the chances of being a set are, so the value of them goes up. So the day that we sold them, they were one price, and today they're 4 or 5 times that price, just because there's only a finite amount. But if you want like a full walkthrough into it, I couldn't really tell you much more than that. Like, I don't know what it means to own a Bored Ape. Like, I still don't know. And you know what? Like, I'm the guy in the meetings that I have with the team at Pog, where I'm like, so what do you get if you own, like, not our stuff, because I know our stuff's for a game, but I'll look at something else where they're like an NFT is $10,000 and like and you don't get anything, and you don't get anything for it. You just get the image of the thing. Yeah. And I would, even now I'll be like, so what do you get? And he's like, nothing. I was like, that sucks though. And he's like, I guess. Like, so yeah, I don't know that much about it. But I do work in the space, and I have a bunch. Like I have a bunch of them using all the weird ways that you have to set up that stuff. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to use them in our game soon.
I mean, I suppose it's ownership of a piece of art that's on. So, as you said, like an NFT, part of the NFT is like the ledger on the blockchain that certifies ownership. But instead of being on your wall, it's in your digital wallet. But
you got it. There you go.
Obviously, among us here, like we collect, we love tangible items, like we're toy collectors. So, I don't have that same attraction to owning NFTs, but I know that not everyone's like me. I mean, not everyone has a spare room that's filled with 80s and 90s toys. So I think a lot of people are attracted to the idea of a digital collectible that has the ability to go up in value. I know not all do, and less don't than do. But I think the projects that you've been involved with, Brent, where there's some form of utility that's attached to the NFT. I mean, that's where I could see myself getting involved. There would, you know what I mean? There would have to be something attracting me to it above and beyond just that piece of art that sits in my digital wallet, so I can flex among my friends. You know, when we're all getting together or whatever. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. For sure. I mean, to give you the serious answer is you're 100% correct there. You know, everything that we put out is essentially one of a kind. The reason why I even got involved was because it used a legacy IP. So 99% of everything that is an NFT at the moment doesn't use any kind of like historic legacy IP. I did the NFTs for Tops for Garbage Pail Kids because it's a 40-year-old IP that means something to me. And the reason why I reached out to the POG team and now am their art director is because I collected POGs as a kid and I saw this thing come along and I was just like, if I was ever going to get involved in NFTs, it has to be something that means something to me as a kid. It needs to be recognizable. Like, again, it's the same as I like that people will see the stuff and they go, oh my God, I had so many of these in the 90s. This is great. Yeah. And soon they'll be able to download a game on the Apple Store where they can play POGs digitally and you don't need to go on eBay and buy hundreds of dollars worth of POGs. So, yeah, the reality is I don't think I would be involved if it didn't have some sort of historical significance to me. And the fact that these guys it's not a money-making thing in the sense that we're not just trying to put out JPEGs and hope that they go up in value. Sure. Really, the core of it is that we're a video game company and we need pieces. We need hundreds or thousands of pieces to be able to play, because when we've got 3,000 or 4,000 people who are all playing POG digitally and they're playing for keeps, they want to be able to collect all the different images and they want to be able to trade and to play against other people. And I think that that's really great. I think that shows more utility than I've seen out of most anything else that would be labeled an NFT. If we didn't have that sort of company behind us, I don't think I would work for them, because the POG Unlimited brand is a real brand. We literally can't just steal people's money and run away. We're an actual proper company that sold billions of collectibles in the 90s, and we're sort of bringing it back in this space. And so if you were looking for something that's not sort of like just like a cash grab for a JPEG, this one spoke to me. And so I'm really proud to be working with those guys. The team of people that I work with are ridiculously qualified. I mean, the companies, they love that I worked for Tops. I mean, they do maybe the same thing that you've done, looking at my portfolio, and like, that's amazing, you get to work for Star Wars and stuff. But that's coming from people who co-founded Twitch and people who worked for Google and Rivian and Bill and Melinda Gates and all this sort of stuff. Like, those are the people that I work with on a daily basis. I'm the least qualified, I'm the least impressive person that works for them, and they love me and I love them. So it's good. I don't feel that they would spend their time on something unless it sort of, they figured that there was a roadmap to it becoming something. So, but yeah, again, on the technical side though, I know nothing really about it, and I don't think I will ever own NFTs that aren't POGs, or at least aren't stuff that I owned as a kid. Yeah. You know, if they bring out Toxic Crusader NFTs, then sure, maybe that'll be the first one I buy that's not a POG. You know.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
All right. Who inspired you as a kid, Brent? Like, I mean, as a kid, I loved reading Mad Magazine and copying like the caricatures of the actors, and I loved drawing those. Like, as a kid growing up, what did you draw most? What inspired you?
Probably Mad Magazine.
Oh, okay.
Mad Magazine was big for sure as a kid, and then on top of that, I was a trading card collector as a kid, right? So a lot of that was art based. You had those sets that were like Julie Bell and Boris Vallejo, fantasy art trading cards, and then a lot of the Topps other spoof sets. So there was a set called Toxic High School, and all of that artwork was done by the name escapes me now, but really well-known guy who was, and they all crossed over. So the guys that worked for Topps doing trading card art for Wacky Package and stuff, they also worked for Mad Magazine. They shared a lot of employees. So if they weren't working for Mad, they were working for Topps. And now going back as well, like Mars Attacks and all that stuff, like those artists, like the guy Norman Saunders who did all of the artwork for Mars Attacks. I mean, he did the Batman 66 trading card art from way back when, but he did like all the pulp magazines, the war comic covers and stuff. Like there were these just core artists. I mean, Drew Struzan is like the man. He did all the Star Wars posters and a lot of the what you would consider to be major iconic movie posters, Back to the Future and all that stuff. Like he really is my biggest, like, he's someone who I get, like, there's not many books in my collection where I wear the book out, but his book, I just have to go through it every now and then and just have a look at the way he does things and just the way he creates, like, it's paint and it's pencils. It's just, and then it becomes this face that like, and it's hyper realistic. Like when you look at the Back to the Future poster, I don't think most people look at it and go, oh, that's a drawing. No. But it is a drawing. It's 100% just a drawing. It's amazing how damn good it is. Like, it's so good that it's, and the painstaking, the patience it takes. I mean, like, the downside to doing stuff on small format like I do is that, when I go to do something big, the prospect of me painting flames coming off the back of a DeLorean's wheel for 40 hours is probably not going to happen. But at the same time, if you're getting paid what he was getting paid to do it, maybe you would. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, the classic movie artists are really, on the funny side, Garbage Pail Kids, Mad Magazine, and then on the more realistic side, your fantasy artists. So you like your Basil Gogos, Fred Setter, Boris Vallejo, and then your movie guys like Drew Struzan. So those are really, they encompass probably the bulk of my art inspirations. And I'm not saying that my art looks anything like theirs or that it's anything close to theirs. I'm just saying that, like, if I ever need inspiration, if I ever need inspiration for what really good art looks like, then that's my go-to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, really good. That's been great. Good to get to know you.
Thanks for coming on the show, Brent.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
get to know you a bit more as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've run into each other a bunch of times and stuff.
It's
and
just
obviously,
like a quick chat here and there, and it's kind of like, every time I've always talked to you, it's been awesome to hear your stories and hear what you're doing.
I think I wish more people did what you did, which was kind of like, we don't know each other that well, but just in passing, right? So, but the fact that you come up, almost as if like I'd known you a long time, and you're like, shit, man, look what I got, and you open up the bag, and you're like, I got this, and I got this, and I got this, and I'm like, whoa, man. And they're like, I'm kind of jealous because I got to walk around before you did, and I didn't see those things. So
I've got an eye for it.
But really happy that, and again, you got the eye for it, and that's one of the great things is that when you're a toy collector is like you do get used to seeing the colors. Like you know that when you're sifting through something, you'll see like a green or an orange, or you'll see something, you're like, I know what that is. Like, I know exactly what Toyland that's from because I know that orange plastic.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what, I know that that's a bomb off a turtle blimp or something like that, or whatever it is. But yeah, like I wish more people did that, which was to sort of, go up to the people running the shows and just going like, look what I got, and I do tend to, I see people walking out with their arms full. I'm like, geez, you went hard today. And then every now and then they'll stop and they go, oh, look what I got this and I got that. And I was looking for this Lego thing forever, and they finally had it here. So always great. I wouldn't say I'm a particularly like, I'm not particularly philanthropic like that, where I'm like, I necessarily care too much about what other people do, but it does make me feel nice when sort of someone comes along, they paid their $2, and they walked out with something, and they're just like, oh, there's at least a few every time we have a fair where somebody walks out and they're like, I've been looking for this thing for 3-5 years, and I finally found it, and and all they had to do was just throw a $2 coin in a bucket essentially, and and then boom, there it is, something they've been looking for years. So
Absolutely,
it makes me feel good because that again, it's the hunt for me. Whether it's put in front of you, like in the sense of a toy store or a toy fair, where it's not hunting in the traditional sense where like no one knew it was there. But it's a concentrated situation. But I think that is all the fun of it, is to just go like, this person on this day happened to have this thing that I want. And every now and then as well, sometimes you won't buy something because you feel like it was maybe a bit much at the time and it never comes again. You think no one's going to buy that thing. It's priced way too high. And then like 2 fairs later, it's not there anymore. And you're like, oh no.
That's like, where is it going?
I've done that before.
Yeah. I had that. I have that. It sticks in my head. Somebody, when I didn't own Nexus, I was walking around. Somebody had a box of Ren and Stimpy trading cards, dynamic marketing. So the only Australian released Ren and Stimpy cards that came out, and they had a sealed box, and they wanted $100 for that box.
Wow.
And I was like, I can't pay $100 for a box of cards, I just can't. And you know what? Like, if somebody put that box in front of me now for $150, I'd be throwing cash at them. Like, not necessarily for the value of it, just that you just never see them. They never come up. This person just happened to, who keeps an unopened box of trading cards from 25 years ago and just decides to like, well,
here you go.
why would you have that?
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, I've got a few horror stories like that where I'm just like, I wish I should have just pulled the trigger. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we might wrap up there. I'm just aware of the time for the guys in Sydney. But again, thank you so much for coming onto the show, Brent. It's been awesome getting to hear your stories and find a bit more about you. And thank you so much.
It's been awesome.
No problems.
Thanks very much,
I wish I could have had a really nice toy background behind me, but I actually am moving. Like I said to you, like I'm in the process of moving all my toys around and stuff, and so I don't have them in any kind of nice display situation just right this moment.
Yeah,
that's all good, mate.
Boxes. Yeah,
that's all right. Thank you, Brent.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We might end it up there, Brent, but we'll catch you at the next Nexus Toy Fair or Collector Zone.
Sure thing. Cool, and we'll see you East guys over one day. Make a weekend of it and come and we'll do an after party or something at the toy
fair.
That'd
be awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awesome, mate.
Sounds great.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Brent.
All right. See you later, Brent.
See ya.
All right.
Are we still live?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we are still live. So
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
That was great. Brent's awesome.
And we didn't even cover his music or his eBay stuff. His eBay.
No, there's so much more stuff we're going through. Yeah.
He's a real go-getter, isn't he? Like very good business mind.
Absolutely.
But also, he's got lots going on.
That's right.
No wonder he doesn't have a lot of time to do things.
That's right.
He can do his toy room.
Yeah. Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Well, should we finish that up or just do a quick around the grounds?
Yeah.
With what we're coming up this week or next week.
I'll kick it off.
Yeah,
go for it.
I've hardly done any editing since we got back from Melbourne. I've just had a really busy couple of weeks. So I'm now working through my first video or my video of day one of that Melbourne trip. So it'll probably be a 35-40 minute episode, but it's going to be Lobo's collectibles. It's going to be Retro Nightmare and a couple of other quick stops.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my best to get that out this week. I'll make sure it's out by this weekend. I mean, I was trying to get it out for today, but it's nowhere near done. But anyway, it is what it is. I mean, this stuff's supposed to be fun, isn't it? I can't stay up all night.
Don't rush, Scott. I know you love to chuck things out on the 31st or 30th and 15th, but just, you know what, man, just, as you said, if you're busy in life, it's just a hobby. Whenever you get to it, man.
That's it.
Don't rush.
For sure.
Absolutely.
We're not sitting. Sometimes I sit there and I joke with you, going, "It's the 15th. Where's the videos, Crusher?" And you're like, "It's coming. Well, it's coming."
Yeah, I mean, I've already got a couple out this month. I was ahead of the game and did the 10th and the 20th. I was trying to have something for the 30th, so I could get 3 episodes out in the month. But anyway, I haven't been able to do that this time around. But if it's ready for this Saturday, Sunday, cool. If it's earlier, then even better. But I'm just going to start cracking through. Well, I've started, but I'm just going to pick up the pace on that tomorrow night and get into it.
Look, Dan, look what I got, Dan. I got the Pegasus, bro. I'm super stoked with that.
Dan, we've all got stuff, mate. We've come back from Melbourne with full suitcases. So yeah,
I can't wait to see it all, and I'll gladly watch all the 40 minutes. Yeah,
I appreciate that, mate. Look, I'll try and make it less than 40 if I can. But I just imported all the Lobos footage into Hit Film, and just the Lobos footage was like half an hour. So, and I'm like, I can't. And then I've got talking about pickups at the end and whatnot. So I've got to cut it all down.
Yeah,
you've made it as a YouTuber when you got like dirty hot girls are waiting.
I know. I accidentally highlighted one by accident. I was trying to bring up a comment, someone saying hi. And next to it, I'm like, oh my goodness.
What? They were waiting in the green room, were they, or what?
Right. Yeah, hot girls are waiting in the green room.
Yeah.
Why? That's incredible.
Yeah. I think that means you made it, Ryan. Because
I guess we're
they must be our groupies.
My goodness.
What about you blokes? What do you got going on? I love the tub hunting video.
Yeah,
it was
that was
cool
great.
It was cool to have that out for early, like the first couple of days after we got back from Melbourne.
Yeah, that's it for a while. I'm just I haven't been doing anything. Nothing toy related. I've kind of just gone. I don't know.
I've still been cleaning those toys up. I mean, gosh, they were dirty, Matt. They were really filthy. Those toys out of the tub.
The tub ones are disgusting. I
Your
washed.
hands must have been so dirty.
I think this is one I washed up the turbo tank.
Yeah,
I gave that a wash. And I thought, it's got screws, it'll pull apart. And no, they've glued it. They've glued that backing plate on when they made it, so you can't actually pull the base. So
it's actually fixed.
Yeah. So I go, what's the point of all the screws? When they've glued it, but it still came out pretty well. It still came out really nice and clean. Give it the sugar soap and let it dry, and it came out really good. Yeah. So I've been cleaning up all those dirty toys and trying to get Vader clean and put him in the back there.
Yeah, that was an awesome.
These have come up really well. Like I know they've got some scratch paint rubs on them here, but I've just been watching a few videos on how to just maybe get rid of some of the paint rubs off these LJNs because it's a rubber, and there's so many. I'm not sure why. Either they're really well played with, or they're just maybe from the bucket themselves, but all the dirt and the grime has come off them with a good sugar soap. The only one I haven't done is Big John Stud. I kind of wanted to have a bit of a before and after of him, so just to show how he was probably the worst condition, like dirt wise, and I just wanted to have a before and after of him, and maybe chuck as an Instagram picture or something like that. But
like washing him in the bathtub or something.
Yeah, give him have the soap suds, and he's got a little brush, and he'll be holding it like.
No, I mean together. You're washing the bathtub together with yourself.
It's too much lemon, lime, and bitters. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But it's not been working on any video. Just enjoying the toys. That's trying to get in here and just sort a few out, put them on the shelves. That's all I've been doing. But busy with work a little bit too this week, so haven't done as much as I'd like. Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I just said, just cleaning these toys up, and I think, what will I feel? I was going to do the Pirates of the Caribbean, but I put it back up on the shelf because that needs a bit of research. That one,
yeah,
because there's
It's quite a big set as well, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, well, there's 4 of them, so
wow.
Yeah, you know, so I'll put that back on the shelf, and I went, what I'll do is, you know, I know everyone's done it, but I could do the unboxing of the Castle Grey stuff. So, I got with more of the loose figures from down at the, down in Melbourne there. So,
my mate Enzo. Hey, Enzo.
Yeah. Well, that's right. It's something, especially when they're really grimy and things like that.
I find it quite therapeutic. I don't mind cleaning. Giving the toys. If I'm picking new stuff up that's filthy, just giving it a clean or using a bit of the old magic eraser. I find it quite therapeutic to clean them up.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've been spending the last couple hours. Like last night, didn't get to bed till almost midnight, so I was setting up cabinets and things. But I really love setting it all up and getting it looking great, getting in there. That's
it's good fun.
It's the feeling, yeah.
Hey Dan, you like these, man? Look at these. The original Remco Karate Kid figures. So with these two, they got all their chopping actions work. It's just these 2 leg actions work, and these guys are all leg actioned out. They've kicked the shit out of these guys, so their leg actions don't work anymore. So, but they were really well priced in 2 different shops.
That was awesome. How you saw the first 2 at the toy fair and the second 2 at Aaron's, like that. Because you don't.
Yeah, and then I went to Aaron's and found those 2, and really well priced. I think they were all about 30 each or something. So nowhere near complete, but bloody hell, I'm just so impressed with them, and they're really well cleaned up.
What year are they from? 80, 85?
86, I think they were done. They're obviously done after. Well, the first film was 84, and when was the second one? 86, 87? So, yeah, they kind of...
There were figures in the line. There were figures in the line based on characters from the second film, so maybe the line came out around the second film time.
Must have, yeah, because these 2 were in the second film briefly. Oh, son of a gun, he just karate chopped me. But, yeah, I was super impressed with those.
Yeah,
that's
they're
why you
awesome.
needed that training centre, Matt. Down there.
Oh, I know. How much did they want for that training centre? 700 or something? Or?
About 900.
Oh, and the rest?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, it was
85 to 87.
It was bigger than the suitcase, though. But
I thought
I think it was 895 in box. I don't know if it was sealed or not, though. But if it was sealed, you'd want to open it, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would, yeah.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Shane.
See you later, mate.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, it's been a good night. All right. Well, we might call that. You wind it up. But thank you for everyone tuning in, and thanks again for Brent. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Collector's Pack.
Thanks, everyone in the chat.
Thanks, everyone in the chat for joining us.
We'll see you next time. We appreciate you.
All right.
Love yous.
Over and out. See ya.
Later.
Keep washing those figures.